Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with The Crossing, Season 1, Episode 2, Review. Alright, so this episode was a little bit of a step down from the pilot. I'm gonna point that out, to start with here. So the pilot I thought was very strong, really got your attention right away. Really wrote me in, right? Like really pulled me into the story, right off the bat. Within the first like 2-3 minutes of the episode, I was hooked. I was into it, right? And this one had a little bit of a different feel. This one kind of seemed like, and I'm not, blaming, the writers or the producer or anything for this or the acting for this, but I'm just saying it kind of seemed like it really, like, they got everyone on episode 1 and then they were like, all right, we don't have to put as much effort into this one. Like that's kind of how it felt. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Maybe you felt differently. I mean, some people might like this one better. Who knows? But to me, it really just felt like they put a lot of work into the pilot, of course, and then this one was like, all right, we got our viewers now, so let's take it down a notch or something like that. But I would have liked to, of course, seen it, still at that level that the pilot was at, but it's hard to keep that momentum going, right? And for shows like this, ABC network shows, they're obviously not going to get the amount of funding that Game of Thrones is getting, like $5 or $6 million per episode there, with season 7. So anyways, but overall, I thought it was a good episode. We found out some stuff here. I thought there was some really, really great character building here. Some really good focus. The acting was very good. That's one thing that you kind of worry about with network TV shows. Sometimes the acting's a little off, but for this show so far, at least, every actor has been really, really good. So that's definitely a plus. But anyways, we'll quickly go over a recap. I don't have much for this episode, so we'll do that, and then of course get to a rating, favorite character, and some more overall thoughts of the episode towards the end. So I also do want to say before we get started, thank you so much for the support on last week's Crossing review. I do apologize. This one's about a day late. I like to get these out on Tuesdays, but now with the Terror also being on Monday night, so I have a little bit of a conflict here, but for the most part, Tuesdays is going to be the goal for this and the Terror in the future. So yeah, so this one's going to be a couple days late here, but on schedule for the next couple weeks. So anyways, yeah, I just want to thank you for the support on last week's video. Really, really appreciate it. I think we're almost at 1,000 views, so that's pretty awesome. For my channel, that's insane. So I really, really appreciate it. A lot of subscribers, a lot of comments, and a lot of just support. So I really like to thank you guys. Really appreciate it. So, anyways, let's get into this episode now. So we get 2187. Okay. So we're in the future. We're in the future by a lot, actually, right? So we see Reece and a man going through this old building, right? And they they have guns. They're in these suits and whatever. So they're looking for people, I guess, right? They're looking for the commoners. That's what they call them. Because they are Apex, right? Reece is Apex. So they find this baby girl in the building there, and they hear her crying, and the man just ruthless, I guess. Like, he just tries shooting the baby. He's like, well, that's annoying, and just tries to shoot the baby, but Reece shoots him instead and kills him to protect this baby. So, or I'm not sure that she killed him, but at least she like subdued him, so that he couldn't shoot this baby, and so that she could take it for herself. And she says, I'm gonna take care of you, to the baby. So that's how she is her mother. I really like this scene, kind of explaining that a little bit more, because this whole time I'm thinking, this little girl doesn't look at all like Reece, right? So this really makes a lot of sense. So she's basically adopted here, and it was a weird adoption too, right? Because she's Apex and this baby is a commoner. So very interesting there. So that was a good little. I call it a flashback, but it was kind of more of a flash forward, with the two things. But I'm just going to refer to it as a flashback because she's like remembering this happening before, even though it happened in the future, right? So I'm just going to refer to them as flashbacks because there was quite a few in this one. So then we see Jude is keeping Reece in his house until they find where the refugee camp is. So Jude wants to help her out. He wants her, to find her daughter, to help her do that. So in order to do that, he leaves her at his house, tells her not to go outside. Of course, that doesn't go very well. But anyways, So then Jude goes to the hospital, talks with Emma, the Homeland Security agent there, and she says she has to show him something. So she's finally starting to open up a little bit and tell him some details about this case. So she ends up showing him every case file, pretty much, right, that they have so far, and the videos about this disease that Apex has created, how deadly it was, right? So we get a lot of information about that. I'm not going to try to pronounce the disease. It's like motosis or mitosis or something like that. Obviously, it's a made-up name, of course, for the show. But anyways, it's a very deadly disease. Anyone who catches it, pretty much dies. I don't think there's a cure for it. The commoners get it, but the Apex don't. They're immune to it. So, very interesting there. And then she says at the end that she wants to work together on things. And it's like, okay, well then, tell Jude where the camp is and tell him some other stuff instead of just, throwing some details out here for the first time. So, I don't know. I felt like that was kind of, a little bit confusing because it's like, on one hand, all right, you want to work together, then involve them. You can't just, give him, little crumbs here and there and expect him to be together on this, right? So, anyways, a little bit weird there. So then, as she pulls away, Jude radios his partner, Nestor. I think I got his name wrong last episode, but Nestor. So he radios Nestor, who's waiting for her, and he goes off and follows her to the camp. So that was pretty smart, right? Because obviously they don't know where the camp is, and she's not going to tell them, so they have to follow her. So, and I will say, like, that's pretty, that's not pretty good that Emma, wouldn't notice that Nestor is behind her, that she's being followed, especially, the stakes, that are on the line here. So, that's pretty sad that she wouldn't even notice. But then we see Emma phones the deputy. His name is Craig, by the way. So I had to look that one up, though. I've never heard his name mentioned in the show yet. But anyway, so Craig, he's the one, of course, from the bridge in last episode. So he basically lies to her, says, whatever he wants, really. And then we see that he has Thomas kept as a prisoner. So she asks about Thomas, where is he or whatever, and he says, yeah, no, he didn't have much to say, whatever. So, obviously, he doesn't want, what Thomas knows to get out, right? Because Thomas has now seen him. So he is keeping Thomas as a prisoner for now. And then he also then tells his man, he kind of looked like a tough guy, right? His kind of henchman, I guess, that an Apex got through, right? So that, of course, Reece is the Apex. So he, is making a big deal out of it, saying there's an Apex there. And this man says there will be torture, right? There will be torture for this Apex, person. And we know that's Reece, because of, the way they were treated back on their world, or in the future in their world. So, and this was my question, like, so they're not Apex, pretty much, right? So that means that Craig and this group, or at least, his, friends or whatever, are not Apex. Maybe they're just normal ones as well. Maybe they're commoners as well. So I'm not exactly sure yet, but we'll have to learn more about this. They really built up Craig and in that sort of storyline a little bit in this one. So we'll have to see going forward. So we see Jude's partner Nestor come and tell Jude the area where the camp is located after following her. He shows it on the map there. And then Jude kind of, brushes it off so that, he doesn't really want to get Nestor involved in this, right? He kind of wants to, keep him away from this so that, nothing comes back to him, and that's respectful. So, anyways, so then we see another flashback to Reece, talking to her husband about keeping the baby and what dangers come with that, right? The consequences of keeping a common baby, right, with them as they are the Apex. So very interesting there. So we already see that dynamic there between her and her husband. That comes back later. So then we go back to modern time, and Reece, it takes Jude's car after fixing the engine. So that was kind of an interesting thing there. She finds this like handbook, and she's able to, quickly fix that engine and get the car running. So I like these scenes here with the flashbacks, and I'm gonna call them flashbacks. So flashbacks, and then like right to modern time, and it didn't really skip at all. Like it's she paused, we saw the flashback, and then we came back right to her in that moment. So I like the way they did that in this episode. But anyways, yeah, so she fixed the engine, she goes into town here, gets a few supplies, and then suddenly a police officer stumbles upon the car, but he's like radioing Jude. He's like, well, your car's out here, and he's like, there's no way, the engine is broken, and all this stuff. So Reece refuses to get out, right? She's not, she's not gonna have it. She actually starts grabbing a knife, but instead she speeds away right when the cop, gets out of his car. It becomes a high-speed chase here. It was pretty cool. The way this was shot looked really good. And then finally, she is stopped by this. She kind of drives into to a corner, pretty much. And so the car stops, but she escapes the car and runs away before the cop can find her. So that was very, a really suspenseful scene, and then kind of just ended up, kind of how you thought, right? You knew that she would most likely get away. So we see that Jude then, back at the police station, the cop reports this to him, right? And he's kind of sick and tired of it, right? He's kind of done with her messing with him. And so, yeah, he decides to call Emma to report Reece. But all of a sudden, she shows up at the station. And this was like a crazy moment for Jude, because it's like he's trying to hide this girl, and all of a sudden, she just turns up at the police station of all places, and she's a, wanted fugitive right on the loose. So obviously I don't think she knows that yet. But anyways, so he brings her into his office. He asks why she is really here, because he wants to really know before he starts helping her again. And she says, I'm here because I made a promise to Leah, right? That's what she says. So, Jude kind of buys it, I guess. Or doesn't buy it, right? It depends how you look at it here. But for the time being, he kind of buys it. So he ends up driving Reece to the camp, or he says he's going to drive them to the camp. So then we see another flashback. Reece is in this conference room with their two bosses, presumably, or two, leaders, I guess, with Apex, right? They're the kind of Apex people. So these people find out from her husband that she has kept this baby, right? So it's a big deal, of course. She's finally found out, and they're gonna punish her, right? They're gonna sentence her to punishment of some sort here, and she's in big trouble. But as we've seen before, she somehow gets out of it. So she suddenly, throws her chair back at the guard. This was a great scene as well, a lot of action. Throws her chair back at the guard, takes his gun, and shoots the officials after shooting him as well. So what I'm wondering is that gun, does that kill them, or does that just subdue them? I don't know yet, because before, she shot the other guy too when she got the baby. So I don't know if she's actually killing these people or it's just subduing them. I'm not exactly sure, obviously, because we don't know that technology that they have at the time. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly if she's killing them or at least just, stopping them for the time being, kind of like knocking out sort of thing. Anyway, so she shoots both the officials, and she walks out. She lets her husband live, though. She doesn't shoot him, which she probably should have for what he has done to her, right? What he's, he basically told on her, right? So, obviously not very loyal. But anyway, so she lets her husband live and goes home. So that was a very intense scene there, and she's willing to do anything to keep this baby and stay out of trouble. So then we see Leah back in modern times. She gets tested for DNA samples, and everything seems to be going normal. But when the test is over, Rebecca pulls back her sleeve on her arm and sees that Leah has contracted the disease, contracted the disease that Apex created, mitosis or whatever, montosis or whatever they're calling it. So crazy, right? Like, that's probably the biggest twist of the whole episode here is, how does she still have this disease? We saw a little bit earlier about, in the future that the doctor kind of treated her for it or something like that. And that seemed like they fixed it, right? They fixed the disease, and that's how she's still alive. But maybe not, right? Maybe they didn't get rid of it. So they put her in isolation there in the tent so that it doesn't spread to anyone else. So I'm not exactly sure how this all works, because I'm not sure if the current humans can get this disease. Maybe it's only the ones who came from the future, right? So there's a lot of questions still to be answered here with a lot of this, sci-fi fiction stuff. So we'll have to see, more of that. But for now, she is in isolation, and she's, considered very dangerous, very contagious, of course. So then Jude takes Reece to an empty building by the dock. So he tells her, obviously not true, but he tells her they are bringing Leah here, right? And I don't know. To me, this was so predictable. I knew that it was a trap. I knew that it wasn't gonna be what he said it was. So yeah, it's a trap, right? It is. So he locks her in a room, and then she tries shooting her way out right away. She's a fighter, right? She's gonna fight her way out of a lot of things here, and this is one of them. So obviously she can't shoot her way out, right? It's a pretty firm door there. So then Jude says he needs to keep her there in this room, as she did not tell him the full story, right? He knows that she didn't tell him about the disease, about this mitosis thing that he's found out now by Emma. So he's a little bit pissed about it, right? So he asks about the disease, and she says she had nothing to do with it. She didn't create it. Nothing, she wasn't involved with it. So I'm getting the feeling that she is an Apex, but maybe she didn't really agree with all of the stuff that Apex did, right? So maybe she is one, but is she going to be, is she going to side with them? I don't know, right? Probably not, the way that, they're kind of explaining the character. But anyway, so then she says, you're going to suffer for this. So obviously Jude is probably going to be in trouble when she gets out, and as we know, she does. So, the future for Jude not looking too bright at the moment. But anyways, so then, back, another flashback, we see her packing up and taking Leia with her across time, right, to go back to the world, and that is presumably how she got through the time machine, or whatever, the time warp, with the rest of these commoners. So yeah, very interesting there, and these commoners don't even know that she is an Apex, presumably. At least that's what we kind of have found out so far. So yeah, she's kind of been under detection here, and she was able to get her and her daughter through time. So yeah, very interesting, because if she wouldn't, right, she would have been punished, especially if she did kill those soldiers, or those guards or whatever, I guess, or the officials. Then obviously she'd be punished really harshly. So then we see that Jude asks for Emma to come, just her, right? He just wants it to be them three so they can all talk together. So he reveals that he knows where they are, right? He reveals that he knows where the camp is, and he uses that as a bargaining chip, right? He's saying, well, I'll go public with the place that they're kept at if you don't come here alone. And of course, why trust Emma, right? First thing she does is she calls Craig, the deputy. So obviously, Jude now is probably not going to trust Emma again, or at least for a while, because, this was a big betrayal. So we see 2 helicopters arrive all of a sudden with several men. I mean, and he says SEAL Team 6 just dropped in, so that was kind of a funny line there, and it's true. I mean, they literally did. So anyways, they throw smoke grenades into the building there and cause Jude to pass out, right? So he's unconscious. He can't really do anything now. And then the men get into the room where Reece is, and then she, fakes lying down there a little bit for a while, right? And until they get right in the perfect spot, right behind her, and then, then she gets up and shoots each one of the men, so she's able to take all of them out, and then fights her way out with a few more guards there at the door, and then just runs, that super speed, right, to the end of the dock there, jumps up and into the river and gets away. So I'm guessing that she also has like some sort of swimming power as well, because she swam away pretty fast. So yeah, obviously, it's pretty much, there's no limit to really what her powers are, right? I mean, she's an Apex. We know she's genetically engineered, so she could do anything, right? And that would probably make sense. So I wouldn't be surprised if she has some sort of water, underwater ability, stuff like that. So anyways, that was very interesting, and I said she's a fighter, right? She's gonna fight her way out of things. That's the only way she knows how, right? And to protect her daughter, she'll do anything. So and she actually gets shot, though. She gets shot in this right before she jumps in the river. So that is something to remember. So then we see the survivors hold a memorial for the ones who obviously didn't make it, who drowned in the water. That was very nice to see. Kind of an emotional part of the episode there, but very nice to see. So that was good. And then we see the deputy Craig is talking to his boss there, and his boss is gives him full control of the camp and the 47 survivors. wow, like this is bad news for pretty much everyone involved. Because as we know, he has he has something up his sleeve. We don't know what his exact plans are, but something bad, right? He's not a good guy, or at least he's lying right now. So, anyways, then he calls a woman. And and we don't see it, right? She's in the dark. So she says there is no future for these survivors. Nobody can know they are here. So what does that mean, right? Are they gonna try to kill all of the survivors or something? Who knows, right? And who is this woman, right? Like, it's just crazy there. So another cliffhanger then for next week. Maybe we'll find out who the woman is then. Maybe a little bit later. I don't know. But something is happening here. Something is dwelling. And obviously these people don't want it to get out. Because also these 47 survivors know, because Thomas recognized Craig. I bet all of them will recognize Craig. So they can't let these survivors see them, and they can't let anyone else know that they're there on the planet, in the world. So obviously it's a big deal, and we'll see what kind of measures they try to take to accomplish that. So really crazy there. So then at the very end of the scene here in the last couple of minutes, we see a worker in the convenience store. He's just listening to music and whatever, and all of a sudden he finds this like blood trail all over the floor, and so he turns the corner and he finds Reece bleeding. And I mean, she's really bleeding. She's losing a lot of blood. She has a bullet hole like somewhere here, in her chest area, and she's just bleeding profusely, all the way down her hand. She looks like a badass. She doesn't really care at all, but she's getting some bandages or something like that. And then she asks him how far to Port, I think it was Port Cannon, she said, or Cannon, I think. So she says, how far to Port Cannon? And that's, of course, where the camp is. So now she knows where the survivors are being held, where her daughter is, and now she presumably is on her way there. So damn, right? What an ending to the episode here. Kind of ending there on a cliffhanger, and we'll have to see is she okay, right? I don't think she's not gonna die. But is this gonna stop her from the next time she fights, tries to fight out of a situation? Maybe this is gonna, make things worse for her, make it harder. So, with this bullet wound. So we'll have to see, what happens. And, she makes it to the camp. So, yeah, that is just about it for the recap of this one. Alright, so in terms of a rating for this episode, I'm going to give it a 4.2 out of 5. And like I said, I thought it was a step down from the pilot, right? But that's expected, right? That is totally expected. I don't expect, a show to put that much into a pilot to make it that good and then, continue that the whole season, right? That's just, like I said at the very beginning, it's no Game of Thrones, right? Maybe Game of Thrones you expect that, but a network show like this on ABC, a brand new concept sort of thing, that's, you can't really expect that every week. So, I did go in with high expectations, though, I will admit. It may be too high for this episode, so maybe that's why I didn't enjoy it quite as much as the pilot. Really good character building for Reece in this one. Really, big focus on her. I'd say her and Jude probably had the most, time here, and they were even together in this episode for parts of it. But yeah, so really good character building here. The flashbacks we got were really good. I love flashbacks telling the story. That's one of my favorite things in shows when they can do that. And and these flashbacks really were effective in telling the story of how she's developed that relationship with her daughter and why she's so desperate to get to her daughter again and meet up with her. So anyways, very nice there. Good introduction to the main villain, right, of the story, pretty much, or at least that storyline, who is Craig, right, the deputy of Homeland, Craig. So that'll be very interesting. And also this woman, right, maybe she's even ahead of him, it sounds like. So we'll have to see what happens with them. But I like the introduction here in just episode 2 of, the main force that's going to oppose these survivors from basically succeeding and, prospering in this world. So, going to be very interesting there. And, not as many, twists or not as much action in this episode as the first one. But again, that's kind of expected. The big twist was probably when, we find out Leia has this disease, right? That's probably the main one. And the action, yeah, there's, a couple fight scenes here with Reece, getting out of situations, like the car chase and the end with the SEAL Team 6, like Jude says. But yeah, last episode was a little bit better for those. There's, quite a bit of, downtime, I would say, in this episode where not much happened, but, they're just, having conversations and stuff like that. And then we also saw, like, a little bit of stuff with Jude as well, with his son coming over and that sort of dynamic with him and his ex-wife. So yeah, that was interesting too, but not as entertaining, to be perfectly honest, not as entertaining, right? The action scenes and all that stuff is definitely always more entertaining. But anyways, still good stuff there. I appreciate that for sure. Character building, character development, really helping that in that aspect for sure. Favorite character for this one is going to be Reece, right? Big focus on her this episode. She's played by Natalie Martinez. I think she's a really great actor. She's been on Under the Dome, which I saw her in. CSI New York, she's been in. She's been in APB. So she's been in a lot of shows, actually. Over the last, I would say maybe 5 to 7 years. She's been in a lot of shows. I think Under the Dome, she was there for 14 episodes. CSI, somewhere in the teens there, and APB about 14 episodes again. And then she was also in End of Watch, the movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. So, so overall, she's, had a lot of roles in TV, and, I really think she's a good actor. I really like her as an actress, and I think she's doing a really good job here, playing Reece, right? I think she's really capturing the character, that troubled mother just trying to find her daughter, right? And obviously, there's a lot more to it, a lot more background, a lot of baggage that she's carrying with her. But as it plays out, I think her character is going to be a really likable one. I hope that, she sticks around. I hope that that's, not just part of a storyline here, and then she finds her daughter at, towards the end of the season here, and then she kind of just, falls off the show, right? And, she's not really relevant. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that she's kind of a mainstay here for the future of the show, because I think it's a really, compelling character right now. And like Natalie Martinez is definitely the highlight of this cast. If Steve Zahn isn't, she's kind of the second best. So anyways, that'll just about do it for the review this week for The Crossing. Overall, really enjoyable. I'm really looking forward to the rest of the season on ABC. I think it's going to be something special. I've had comments, of course, my buddy Adam Televisionary, saying this one could be the next Lost. A lot of people are saying that, and honestly, give it, I would say, wait till the end of this season, and then we'll, pass our judgments on that and compare. So anyways, guys, again, thank you so much for watching this review this week. Thank you so much for the recent support on the review last week for this and just all the reviews in general. I really appreciate it. Can't thank you guys enough for the comments, subscribers, likes, shares, views and everything. So really appreciate that. But anyways, again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week for episode 3 of The Crossing.